South Asia, home to 1.7 billion people, that is about 24% of the world population. Here, the economic growth rate has averaged around 6% over the last 20 years. From the consumer point of view, the region could be considered as the capital of the world. South Asia is the region where many countries share a common culture, history, and have similar religious and lingual diversity. However, there seems to be a lack of regional integration, and hence South Asia was tagged as the region without regionalism. To address this problem, a regional organization, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, commonly known as SAARC, was formed in 1984 by 7 countries including Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, with Afghanistan joining in 2005. SAARC was established to accelerate economic and social development in the region. The policies of SAARC aim to promote welfare economics and collective self-reliance among South Asia. In 2006, South Asian Free Trade Area came into force. To promote free competition in the region by eliminating trade barriers through the reduction of tariffs and providing special preferences to the least developed nations of the SAARC region. Despite various efforts made during the 31 years of SAARC's establishment, intra-regional trade has not been able to move forward in a satisfactory way. If you look at the European Union, their intra-regional trade in 2015 was 60%, while ASEAN's was 25%. But intra-SAARC trade was just 5%. The persistent trade barriers and connectivity issues in the South Asia pose great challenges for South Asian entrepreneurs.
Today, goods travel from one Punjab to another Punjab through Delhi, Mumbai, Dubai and Karachi, making the journey 11 times longer and the cost 4 times more.
The landlocked countries in the sub-region are affected the most since they depend on their neighbors for access to sea and global markets.
Look at our borders, they are in such a poor shape. If we compare any land border in India to its seaport, it is pathetic. Why should there be a difference? Every port is equally important.
The borders of Nepal and Bangladesh are separated by an Indian corridor only 51 kilometers wide. But because of high transaction costs, Bangladeshi traders prefer to trade in Dubai instead of Nepal. If we take an example of exporting lentils from Nepal to Bangladesh, it takes 31 days to reach the final destination with 28 verified documents.
There are many formalities in the border area, because we are doing fresh produce items. It may be 2 or 3 hours late. It's failed to go to market on time. Then we'll marketing for next day, which is perishable items problem. Now we are doing business by we are loading in at 6 o'clock in the morning from Dhaka, at 6 o'clock evening in the Saudi Arabia. Goods are in consumer hand. I have a very good market in the Middle East and Europe. It's more and more better from Nepal or India.
If the members of SAARC come together and take measures that simplify custom trade procedures, it can potentially reduce trade transaction cost by 5.4%. Addition to cumbersome custom trade procedures, poor quality of infrastructure greatly hinders trade in South Asia. If we compare the infrastructure of China and South Asia, China's overall infrastructure is 18.6% better than that of South Asia, and Singapore's infrastructure stands at 45.3%.
Actually the transport network within South Asia itself is not very efficient. So the cost of transporting goods from, say, Nepal into India, or cost of goods being traded between India and Bangladesh, because the transport network is not very efficient, because the passage through the border itself is not very efficient. So trucks pile up at the border. The documentation required is very complex. So these are the kind of things which actually retard trade.
Collectively, building infrastructure in the SAARC may have greater benefits for the members than concentrating only on domestic infrastructure. Shared infrastructure can provide economical alternatives and create opportunities for ease of access to regional markets and beyond. At the moment, each SAARC country has its own labeling, packaging and quality standards, which are not recognized by other SAARC countries. To address this issue, South Asian Regional Standards Organization (SAARC) is currently developing SAARC standards. It focuses on harmonizing national standards of the SAARC nations and promoting mutual recognition agreements with the view of removing such technical barriers to trade. Free movements of goods must also be complemented by easier access and mobility of people within the region.
We had one time unlimited SAARC sticker when it started, which means I could go to any of the SAARC countries as many times as I want and as long as I live. That was reduced to some years, at around 1 year, lastly 3 months. So only in that you can find out how SAARC has moved. So if you don't have people-to-people contact, if you do not have the trust amongst each other, nothing. That is the core of all our problems. Somehow there is lack of trust among the SAARC countries.
If the free movement of people is strengthened through easier visa processes, the South Asian traders would have better connectivity, more contacts, and better business opportunities. But lack of trust and political engagement by the member states prevent closer economic integration in the region.
Trade facilitation just being in the agreement does not help. Trade facilitation also should be under a time-bound binding program. You have to implement these trade facilitation measures, reduce the number of forms to be filled to 1 or 2, right? Custom procedures to be made trade friendly. All these have to be under time-bound programs. Just in SAARC summit saying that we will work on trade facilitation does not help.
There can be a significant increase in regional trade and economic integration if the renewed commitments are fulfilled and strong regional ties are established. For example, India and Pakistan are the two biggest economies in SAARC. India occupies 80% of the region's total GDP and Pakistan 10%. In 2013, trade between these two countries amounted to $2.4 billion. But researchers say that their bilateral trade has the potential to reach up to $100 billion. The figures of regional trade in SAARC could be very different if the informal cross-border trade could be formalized.
If Pakistan buys this product from India, so Pakistan can save in totality about $2 billion per year as well, which is a big saving as well. So similarly, Pakistan is some of the export products, they have the bigger potential to have the penetration into the bigger market of India. We believe that if India and Pakistan come closer together, the whole region will be is a beneficiary.
Boosting regional value chains, particularly in least developed nations of SAARC, could enable businesses to move up in regional production networks. SAARC should focus on areas of comparative advantages, and one of the areas could be tourism. Also, there is wealth of opportunities in the region. If, for example, agricultural products are introduced in the value chain, or service industry is prioritized.
The problem is that the trade is heavily in favor of India. We are exporting around $22 billion. Our total imports put together is less than $3 billion. That trade has to be little balanced. If it is heavily lopsided in favor of the other country, then our partner countries find ways and means to restrict it either through NTBs or technical barriers to trade, which is happening in India, South Asia, or India-SAFTA trade also. And that is something I think where we have to take few lessons.
A key takeaway could be the further reduction of the sensitive lists under the SAFTA, in which 20% has already been reduced. Closer integration and greater solidarity among the member states is required for SAARC to move forward. Steps have already been initiated to capitalize on the natural complementarities in South Asia. Bhutan and Nepal have the capacity to meet the growing electricity demand of Bangladesh and India. More than 80% of their hydropower capacity can still be developed. This can help in creating more job opportunities to the young working population and promote regional economic growth. South Asia is a region full of hidden opportunities. Despite the current low level of inter-regional trade, the scope of the region should not be underestimated. Similarly, SAARC should increase its economic cooperation with Southeast Asia and other regions. If SAARC becomes more integrated, it has the potential to be one of the most vibrant economic centers of the world.
We come from a common region, we have common history, most of us. We've enjoyed common trade in the past. We continue to enjoy trade in the present, but we must also realize that there's huge potentials to expand trade in the SAARC region, and we can do that.